Welcome to Easily Entertained. My name is Bryson Olson, and here we talk about all aspects of entertainment. Today we are talking about a new show that came out on Netflix. You saw the title. We're talking about Untamed. Very interesting little mystery show that just caught my eye, and I was intrigued, so I had to talk about it because I binged it in like 2 days. So it might be worth talking about at least a little bit. So let's dive into it.
I'm looking at this girl that went off El Capitan.
Another tourist got too close to the edge.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet.
So like I said, the show is a mystery, like a murder mystery. A girl goes flying off of El Capitan, which is a mountain in Yosemite National Park. And basically the whole story is the Rangers and a federal agent by the name of Kyle Turner, played by Eric Bana, who is like investigating why she went off. Was it a suicide? Was it a murder? Because it just felt a little bit off. And so that's kind of what the whole show is about, is figuring out why and figuring out who did it and who she is, because she's kind of a Jane Doe. And the whole thing is just really interesting. What I also kind of like interesting is the fact that it is something very, not normal, but realistic. It's a kind of story that you could potentially hear about in one of our national parks or or in another country, or just in wilderness in general. It's something that felt very realistic, and I like when movies and shows can be like that, where you can kind of feel the realism behind it, and I like it. So like I said, the girl goes flying off. Her name's Lucy Cook. They figure out that later. Kyle Turner, he's trying to figure out why. He's kind of like this Lone Ranger type character who had lost his kid working in the park. Like someone had taken him and killed him and then left him for dead. And so he's kind of like felt a lot of responsibility into finding people and figuring out why murders happen in the park, things like that. You kind of get to follow mostly his story. He's kind of the main character for sure. But then you have some really good side characters as well. And we'll talk about the whole range of actors and stuff in this show, because some of them are pretty good. But the story is definitely, like I said, it's them trying to figure out why Lucy Cook went over the mountain, because a couple rock climbers were going, they're climbing, they're scaling the mountain, and suddenly she falls, she gets caught up in their ropes, and that's where it all starts. Kind of a weird little thing. So as they're kind of going through it, they're figuring out, okay, so she was abducted from a young age, and then she somehow managed to come back to the park, but she was living kind of as a nomad with like a bunch of these hippies, and like just like, okay, so how do these guys all correlate? When they find her, there are little drugs on her. She has like an X marked in gold on her wrist. Like there are a bunch of little clues of things of like, okay, these can lead us somewhere, and it kind of takes you through the process of what like an actual like situation like this is, where they're like, okay, so there's this and this, okay, let's try and figure out why this is correlating, and this is like a unique aspect. Like when they examine her dead body, she has like a bunch of scars in her legs, almost like an animal attack, but also then they find a bullet wound. Oh, the bullet, that is more significant than the animal attacks happen all the time. That's not really like uncommon. So that leads you down the road, like, okay, who could have shot her? Well, there's a wildlife management guy that hangs out in the park that always has a gun. It could have been him. And was it him? And he's kind of like this little sketchy dude, so you're like, oh, it's probably this guy. But then it keeps pushing it further along. You're like, oh, well, there's like this drug ring that she was getting involved in that Turner finds out about. And so they go and find that, because his partner, or sort of partner, his like ranger partner that he's assigned, Vasquez, she finds this abandoned mine, and that's where like the drug ring is happening, and a whole bunch of different stuff like that. And then they eventually go down the line and find out, oh, the wildlife management guy is the one that shot her. But then you find out why he shot her. He was like sort of paid to do it. Like they were kind of going out and stuff is what it seems like. But then you find out like who her real father is and whatever. And so, yeah, interesting little mystery. What I was not a huge fan of is kind of the end. So spoiler alert, if you need to, go ahead and skip to the next part. The ending of finding out, oh, it wasn't her real dad. Like, her real dad is who hired the hit on her. Basically, kind of, to me, seems like it kind of comes out of nowhere. Shane, the wildlife guy, kind of makes sense. Like, she's getting involved in things, in like little drug things, and he kind of seems to be involved with that as well, but he's like kind of whatever, he's just letting it slide. But then she is going against like the little drug ring she's working for. She wants to like basically start her own thing. That's like the assumed thing. So they hire a hit on her, kill her. That kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, like she was in some bad stuff, that kind of makes sense. Like, that I think would have been a pretty good ending. And when they find out that it was Shane that shot her, that's what it kind of feels like, is you're like, oh, okay, we've wrapped this up nicely. And then it continues for a little bit, which just feels really odd. And you find out that it's Sam Neill's character, Paul Souter. He's like the head ranger. He was her actual father, and she was threatening to like tell his wife and his kids and whatever. And so like it makes sense, but I kind of wish we got more lead up to that throughout the series. It was just suddenly, oh, and there it is. It didn't seem like it was really worth it. Like the Shane stuff made sense. It was built up to from pretty much the beginning. That one makes sense, but I feel like we should have gotten at least little bits from Souter's character a little bit more. Like, I just wish that part was wrapped up a bit better. But overall, the mystery's interesting. It definitely keeps you engaged throughout the entire series, and I do love that.
We have close to 1 million acres of wilderness.
Things happen different out here.
So now I really do want to talk about the acting in Untamed, because I thought that was pretty good. Obviously, you have your lead actor, Kyle Turner, who's played by Eric Bana. He did fantastic. He really does suit that Lone Ranger type vibe, which I think really suits the way his character is written and like the lore behind his character. It makes a lot of sense why he acts the way he does. And it's not like, oh, I hate everybody. Like, he doesn't get along with a lot of people, but he doesn't hate people. He has the people that he likes, and he still tries to help people whenever he can. And he takes well to Vasquez's child and stuff like that. Like, his character is hurting, and he's living alone, and he like his wife left him, or vice versa. I can't remember what the reason was for them leaving. Like, their kid died, and so like that kind of makes sense, but I don't remember why one left her otherwise. But you can tell like his character is hurting a lot. He's had a lot of trauma because he lost his child, and he feels a lot of guilt, and recent cases that he's had, like relatively recent, like just the ones I talk about, are similar to that of his child or to the current case. And so he's just hurting a lot. And so you really get to feel his kind of emotional turmoil. Like, even though his emotions aren't swinging back and forth a lot in the series, he does really show, like, within himself, you can see the trauma and not the acting, the emotion that's behind everything. And that I think is really hard to pull off. It's hard to pull off a character where it's like, like he's super still faced, but he has a lot of stuff going on internally. It's because like, how do you show that? And so I thought he does a fantastic job about that. You also have our supporting characters, which also do a fantastic job. Sam Neill, I just love him. You know, he is a fantastic actor, and I love his range with characters as well. He plays like an old grandpa in this, basically, as the head ranger, and feels very sympathetic and forgiving of a lot of things, but obviously he's hiding some stuff deep down that he doesn't want people to know about. And there are occasional moments where like things kind of let slip, but it's not to the point where like the story and that line up very well, because I think it doesn't matter. I'm talking about the acting. His acting performance, fantastic. Okay, that part I think is great, and I like he's like that sympathetic kind of boss, because he is like the head ranger, and like sympathetic may not be even the right word, but empathetic maybe, where he does just feel for other people and he cares. He invites Turner to things, he makes sure Vasquez is taken care of, different stuff like that. You also, like I said, you have Vasquez, Naya Vasquez, I believe is her first name. She's supposed to be a cop from LA, now living in Yosemite, and so like she thought her life was going to be a little bit different. She has her young son. They were fleeing like an ex-husband who was a little bit whack, and she like has a lot of drive to make sure this succeeds and to give her son a good life. And she really takes after Turner, wanting to learn like how to track people and how to really fit that ranger role. I think she does absolutely fantastic in that, and she has a lot more outward emotion, and you really see that like range throughout it. Like she has her really excited moments, she has kind of like her melancholy, like, man, I wish I could figure this out type moments. You have her like fear moments when her ex-husband showed up, who she has a restraining order against, and you can see like the fear in her like true abused partner type fear, which is always like, it's kind of sad to witness, because you're like, oh my gosh, this is so like, you know, this girl is just terrified, and you can see in her eyes the kind of things that she's been through, like without them outright saying this kind of stuff, you can just see it, and it makes you feel for it, and you feel sympathy and empathy for it. And she does a fantastic performance, and her range is just all over. And I think that's what's really unique about these characters, is that they all feel three-dimensional, and none of them act exactly like each other. Like I said, Sam Neill's character is kind of like the nice old grandpa ranger, basically. But you have Turner, who is like more that stoic, firm, but kind of caring character. And then you have Vasquez, who is a bit more outward emotion, who is very passionate, things like that. And then you have other characters that are a bit more not flat, I would say, but they are like almost one-toned, like not in a bad way, like just their character is very specifically like, I'm this cocky guy, like Shane, he's very cocky and kind of is a bit of a mouth and gets himself into more trouble. Like, obviously he's the bad guy, that's going to make a lot of sense, but at the same time, you know what I'm saying. But you also have like the hippies and like the leader of them, who is also a bit mouthy, but hers is more out of a disdain for authority, like that typical anarchy type mindset that you would see a lot in like, I think the 70s. Like basically put someone from there into the show. That's basically what that is. And I just love the range. Like no character feels like exactly like a different character. Every character kind of gets their spotlight for a moment, like the ones that really need it. And I think fantastic. It just makes the show that much more enjoyable.
People come here to explore. They see maybe 10% of the park.
Now, I talked about this in the beginning as well, but kind of like regarding the story that I really like is the realism. And I think a lot of that does come from the fact that it's like real locations, but also real scenarios that can happen. People go missing in national parks all the time. And I think highlighting a show with that, like especially something kind of like this, where it's like a mystery, suspenseful thriller almost kind of situation, using the realism to that advantage is really good. I think it makes it that much more impactful, and it really hits the audience more because you can imagine it. Just think about recent situations where this has actually happened. Like probably the most notable one is within the last couple of years, you had the case of Gabby Petito, who went with her boyfriend to some national parks in Wyoming, I believe. Wyoming or Utah. I think a bit of both. I think they were on a road trip. I can't remember all of the details. But with missing in a national park, national forest area, and obviously there was like a huge search for her, and there was a killing of her. Like once they found her, like there's all those little aspects like that was everywhere for like what, a freaking month, two. Like it was all over the place. There were constantly more details coming out, and like that's what this show kind of feels like, is like being a part of the search, being a part of the actual case of a missing person in a national park or a murder in a national park. It just makes it all the more impactful because we can relate to it. It is something that is very, I don't want to say very likely in the real world, but the chance is not zero. It's a more plausible scenario than some other similar type movies or shows could portray. It is very, not necessarily relatable, but one that you can connect with. It's something that we have seen and are likely, sadly, going to see more of in the future. But sadly, that also kind of means for national parks, people tend to get a little freaked out when these kind of shows come out, because then you're like, oh, I don't want to go to a national park and then have, the possibility of being murdered or something like that. And like, obviously that shouldn't really deter you from going to national parks. Most of the time they're very safe, and like obviously there are situations like this, but these are the outliers. It's obviously not the norm. But I do think it tends to make people a little bit fearful for a little while. And of course, during summer when everyone's camping, now everyone wants to cancel their camping trips. But regardless, I think it kind of brings some interesting attention to the parks in both good and bad ways. Like obviously you have like the bad way of like, oh, there are murders in the parks and things like that, but also with the cinematography of the show, you get to see the parks. It's almost like a morbid advertisement for national parks when shows like this appear. It is almost like an advertisement for Yosemite, because you just get these massive, beautiful setscapes essentially with the national forest and the mountains and stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely stunning. It's so pretty. And then it makes you kind of want to go there, even with the possibility of being murdered. But it kind of just gets to highlight the park's natural beauty while also, telling a good story. And I like when a series can do something like that, when they can highlight the beauty of the real world, but also they can highlight some of the dark parts of the real world. And I like when a show can really interchange those kinds of concepts. Like obviously the real world isn't all great, but it's not all bad. So I like when they can combine them. It's not just one thing or the other. And plus the national parks are awesome. So even with the possibility of a murder, there's still a lot of good things. Okay, not every situation is going to be like Untamed. It's not going to be like Gabby Petito or 127 Hours or whatever. Like it's not That's not always going to be the situation. In fact, those are pretty rare cases, but some cases obviously get certain amounts of attention. So let's focus more on the actual beauty of the parks. I think that would be great. But anyways, Untamed, excellent show. I like all the aspects of it. I like the mystery. I like getting to show off the national parks, because I haven't been to Yosemite yet, but that is definitely on my list of national parks I'd love to go to at some point. We also have the amazing range of the actors who are all doing a fantastic job, and even most of the writing is doing quite well to help support their good acting too. So I think that part is great. Overall, it's a pretty good show. Hopefully I didn't spoil too much of it for you. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. But with that being said, let's give our rating of Untamed. Well, first, obviously, if you don't know our easily entertained rating scale, from least to best, it is garbage. Once is fine, right mood, quotable, go to, and all day, every day. And I would put it probably at a right mood for me, because I probably would watch it again if someone wanted to put it on, but I might not pick it most of the time because there are just other shows. But it is a pretty well produced show. It just doesn't, to me, have a lot of rewatch value, at least right at this moment after watching it. I'm not aching to watch it again, but it was a very good show. So if you have a different rating of Untamed, if you've seen it already, go ahead and let me know down in the comments, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. I want to know, what ranking would you give it? But that is it for this episode of Easily Entertained. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe so you can be notified of all new episodes when they release every Tuesday. It's always a great time. And of course, comment down below if you have any suggestions for future movies, TV shows, video games, whatever that you'd like to hear me talk about. I'd love to have some more ideas of what I can talk about in the future. But until next time, bye.